Training camp kicks off today, and expectations are high for the Nashville Predators. On today's show, we're going to tell you what we will be looking for from players like Juuso Parssinen, Alexandre Carrier, and Cole Smith on today's Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy official training camp kickoff, everyone, and welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off our Wednesday and training camp kickoff day episode with a hello to new listeners, to our everydayers, and of course, a shout out to our Locked On Predators insiders. We appreciate your support, and we love that we get to spend a little bit of our day with you. I am Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer with Penalty Box Radio, and my friends, I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lingen, and I'm the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News. I also occasionally have a partner in crime of my own, as you may have seen during the Open. That would be Minka, and she is my co-editor here at all times, or at least when she feels like it.
She is upper management at the Locked On Predators podcast, for sure.
True. She's upper management of this household, that's for sure.
That's right. We are very dog friendly here at the podcast, for sure.
Yes.
Yesterday on the show, we talked about Steven Stamkos, one of the players everyone is going to be watching when the Predators take the ice tomorrow for day 2, first day of on ice workouts at training camp. Today, we want to look at some other players and talk about expectations. What do Juuso Parssinen and players like Cole Smith and Alexandre Carrier need to show us over the next few weeks? We're going to talk about some realistic expectations for the Predators' depth today. Before we dive into all of that, want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. All right, we are going to be talking about expectations. We are going to be talking about some depth players and what we need to see from them. But Emma and I have to revisit a topic that we kicked off yesterday's shows with because, friends, there are updates. There are updates on the zoo calendar, and we absolutely have to talk about these. Yesterday, we mentioned that, yes, Roman Josi in a picture with a giant giraffe, which is mainly the giraffe's tongue. We strongly suggest a falcon. Yesterday, the Nashville Predators tweeted out some more preview pictures for the calendar with the Nashville Zoo. Friends, we are all going to be buying those because this is a hot topic and we all have to get them in our hands. Let's talk about the pictures we saw yesterday, Emma, and break this down. Filip Forsberg, pictures taken with tiger cubs. And then perhaps the greatest thing I've ever seen since 2018 Pekka Rinne with puppies in February, Jeremy Lauzon, his picture taken with a porcupine whose name is Jake Gyllenhaal. I don't know that I've ever been so happy.
Listen, 10 out of 10 on the name and the creativity, but also 11 out of 10 to Lozy, because there is no way that I am getting anywhere near a porcupine, even if his name is Jake Gyllenhaal, because those spikes, like we said before the show, that's me emotionally. I that scares me physically. So it would just be too much for me. But honestly, you know what? For the NHL hits leader from last season, it's probably nothing for him.
Nothing. No fear detected on Jeremy Lauzon's face, sitting there feeding from his hand Jake Gyllenhaal, which I have to tell you, I 100% would get my picture taken with Jake Gyllenhaal, because if that is how I leave this world, death by porcupine, whose name is Jake Gyllenhaal, sign me up and write it on my tombstone. That is just so beautiful. You and I had a discussion ahead of time too. We have very differing opinions on Filip Forsberg and the Tiger Cubs, because there was, of course, glass Forsberg outside the enclosure, Tiger Cubs on the other side of the glass while they were taking the picture. Here's me. Oh, put Philip Forsberg in there with the Tiger Cubs. You had a really good point.
I don't know. I mean, first of all, for me personally, if I am having my photo taken with one of nature's most dangerous predators, you best believe there's going to be protective glass involved. However, I also am not worth $8.5 million. Is. So even if, like, for me, for me to not get in there with them, I would say, could he outrun a Tiger Cub? Maybe. But 8.5 million, maybe not worth the risk of finding out.
Yeah. Yeah, I can just visualize Barry Trotz like waddle shuffle running to save his investment of Philip Forsberg, to throw himself between Philip Forsberg and like the playful, hungry Tiger Cubs. I can see that, but very cute. I'm telling you, I feel like there is an entire episode we could do on just partnering the right animal with the right Nashville Predator. But I have to tell you, I feel like they nailed it with Jeremy Lauzon and Jake Gyllenhaal. Y'all, I am so delighted.
I kind of, in a way, I feel like they should have put Lauzon with that giant rhinoceros that UC Saros was terrified of, which, I mean, I would be too. But like, I feel like if anyone could take on a rhinoceros, again, NHL hits leader.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
it makes you wonder, like, Jeremy Lauzon, was he selected to go with porcupines? Because are they like horses who can smell fear? Like Jeremy Lauzon probably emits zero fear. So they're like, let's put him with like the porcupine.
It could be, because aren't skunks like that? Like when they release I don't know why in my mind, a porcupine and a skunk are basically the same, but it's like if they sense, if they're but a skunk is if they're threatened, and Jeremy Lauzon would definitely be threatening,
Very threatening,
at least to me, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I think I may emotionally be a skunk. Being an emotional porcupine, maybe I'm an emotional skunk. I feel like we've just revealed some things about ourselves. Okay, so
and now we have added to our list of merch that we need to sell. I am an emotional skunk.
I am an emotional porcupine. Come on, you all. It's right here. We have so many great ideas for Locked On Predators.
Everybody, let us know. Are you an emotional skunk or an emotional porcupine? Now we want to know.
We want to know. Look, we are going to continue following the Predators Nashville Zoo calendar saga and commenting on it, because we have thoughts. But we're going to move along. We'll circle back to that the next time they post. But we're going to move along and we're going to dive into our thoughts on training camp, which, can you believe, Emma, kicks off today. It's been 85 years or whatever the woman says from Titanic since we heard that Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault and Scott Wedgwood were coming, and expectations changed for the Predators team. We are finally getting to training camp. Like, it's real. Like, Santa Claus is coming to town tomorrow, y'all.
I know, it's so exciting. And for me personally, I just have to say, training camp officially kicks off today. With all of their, they run all of the players through the media gauntlet with the green screens and the gladiators and all of that. And can I just take a personal victory lap and say, for the first time in 3 years, I don't have to be a part of it. And it's great, because the players probably hate that day even more than I do. But we're excited for Thursday on Ice Day.
Yes. Gonna get to see these new guys skate on the ice in gold Nashville Predators jerseys. And will there be a tear in my eye? There's a decent chance, y'all. It's going to be a sight to behold. We talked on yesterday's show about expectations for Steven Stamkos, where he's going to play, the bigger question of who is he going to play with. There is much more that we need to talk about when it comes to Jonathan Marchessault and Scott Wedgwood. We're going to tackle some of that on tomorrow's episode as well. But we want to talk about some of the depth players because there are some pieces going into training camp that we want to see very specific things from. And one of those players we touched on talking about where will Steven Stamkos play? How will this work? But let's talk about Tommy Novak. When you are looking ahead to seeing him on the ice tomorrow and through training camp, through preseason, into the beginning of the regular season, is there something specific that you want to see him improved on from, last season, Emma, something that you're watching for from Novak?
I think I'm watching for, I mean, we've talked about the obvious, the physical, like, sure, we'd like to see him get a little bit stronger. Do I think he's going to come into training camp looking like The Rock? No, not after one summer. But I also think that, part of that, we've talked about the the physical strength. I think with that comes sort of the idea of more of a commanding presence and more of a like an active leadership role is something I would like to see from him after the contract and these heightened expectations for him at 2C potentially. I think a lot of what they're looking for is going to be that kind of, can he take that next step in his confidence, in his leadership, because the hockey skill is there. I mean, we know
Yes.
that already. So I think that it's going to come with a little bit more with just getting comfortable, getting confident, and, kind of taking on more of a commanding leadership role.
I love that because I do think that people are going to go straight for the strength and physicality. And I do think that that is going to be something that we will see an improvement on. I think that's probably something, I think Novak probably spent a day or two in the gym. But I think that is a recency bias thing because, again, that Vancouver series was very, very physical. And the last thing you maybe saw was Tommy Novak getting moved around on the ice more than you want.
He got ragdolled in that Vancouver series. And you know what? I would just like to point out that a lot of people seem to very abruptly have a problem with his contract after that one series. I don't remember hearing that many people complaining about his contract when it was signed. So
Right.
just, that's not to say that we should completely throw out that series. It is recency bias, but it is, it gives him something to work on. And I think we are going to be looking for that.
Yeah, for sure. I love what you say about a commanding presence. I want to see sort of, it's that thing that you know it when you see it. And it has to do, I think it's maybe the same thing you're talking about. Remember that you belong here. Like,
Mhm.
feel that confidence that you are an NHL player. And I don't think he has a lack of confidence. I mean, he certainly does not walk around um, guns a-blazing
No,
at
but that's
all.
just not him.
That's just not
That's just
Tommy
not him.
Novak.
And, some people are more quiet leaders. Not
Mhm.
every leader has to be loud. I love all the books written by Tony Dungy about that, about quiet
Mm.
leadership. He talks about that a lot. And I think that would be the kind of leadership that Tommy Novak would be most likely to display.
Mhm.
So it's not just about being loud and, being a big personality, because that's not him. But I think it would just be more like you said, remember why you're here,
Mhm.
remember that you belong, and just kind of take control. You want to be the kind of guy that players, I remember Jason Zucker said this about Colton Sissons last year, that he is a guy, Colton Sissons, everyone in the league knew. It's like, oh, we got to go up against that guy. I like that. And that's what you want your opponents to be saying about you.
Yes, I love that. It's that confidence, it's that play, because you've been here before, and I want to see that from Tommy Novak. Also, do want to see a little bit more Hulk smash from him, but that's going to come with time and maybe meeting Kaylin Lind at Applebee's. I don't know. Just throwing it out.
Or
Coming up,
having a third dinner at 2 a.m. or
yes, just call each other and say, "Hey, it's time to eat the chicken at 2 a.m." We could do it. Coming up, we want to tell you some specific things that we're hoping to see from Alexandre Carrier and Juuso Parssinen in training camp that's going to give us that encouraging feeling heading into the regular season. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. If all of this hockey talk has you thinking about getting to an NHL game, or if you are looking to make some fall memories at a concert, play, or comedy show, you have absolutely got to check out Gametime. Gametime makes buying tickets to your favorite events quick and easy. They have this great new feature. It's called Gametime Picks, and it filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Gametime also gives you a view from your seat when you switch on the all-in pricing feature before you buy, you're going to know exactly what you're getting. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your order. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. All right, Emma, you were talking about Tommy Novak and the contract that maybe some people had some feelings about. Let's talk about another contract that I think some fans are going to want to see this player, quote unquote, earn this season with some improvement. And I'm talking about defenseman Alexandre Carrier, also known as the man most likely to be cast in Bridgerton, also known as a Chihuahua. Was that right?
Yes,
From
our the Viscount Chihuahua.
Chihuahua. Please see a very in-depth and statistically based analysis of our season superlatives earlier in the summer. That episode, you don't want to miss it. No. For a lot of reasons. Alexandre Carrier on July 1st was announced that he had signed a 3-year, $11.25 million contract with the Preds that works out to $3.75 million AAV. This was one of those players where people were like, is he coming back? Is he not coming back? Are we okay if he doesn't come back? He was very much in the trade deadline rumor mill. And that sort of carried over until the Predators announced they had re-signed him to this 3-year deal. Last season, he played 73 games, 4 goals, 20 points. In the postseason, he had a goal, 2 assists for 3 points. Just throwing it out there. Do with this statistic what you will. The exact same stats as Roman Josi in the postseason. Do with that as you will. Chew on that and see what happens. When it comes to Alexandre Carrier and this next season, this next level that he needs to get to, for me, it's a little bit Tommy Novak-ish in that you want to see him be a little bit more steady and on his feet. Part of that, though, comes with the fact that he is on a pairing where he is juxtaposed with the guy brave enough to go up against Jake Gyllenhaal. You know, Jeremy Lauzon, as you said, hits leader in the NHL. So you're kind of in this situation where you are just, no matter how physical you are, how strong you are being compared to somebody who is exponentially out there physically. So I want to say that with a bit of a grain of salt, because I don't think that Carrier is super soft. I don't think he got ragdolled against Vancouver, but I do want to see a little bit maybe more physicality from him. How about you? What do you want to see from him in training camp and the early season?
I might disagree with you a little bit there. I think, well, first of all, I do agree that I don't think we're looking for him to be Jeremy Lauzon because he's not. I think that for his size, he plays big. He plays bigger than he is. He blocks a lot of shots. I think he uses his body a lot, uses his physicality. The problem is, again, he just doesn't have the size that someone like Lauzon does. So for me, it's a little bit more about consistency, I think, on offense, because that was kind of when he first came into the league, his rookie season. You know, he was all NHL all rookie team, I think, and that was when he really kind of broke out offensively, and that was kind of supposed to be his, I think a lot of the time he's been kind of compared to Dante Fabro because they're both, they're around the same age. Well, Carrier's a little older, but they were, kind of similar types of defensemen. Both had the offensive upside. Fabro did, at least when he played in college, but we just haven't really seen him take off in that respect in the NHL like he was maybe expected to. Carrier, in his first season in the NHL, we saw that spark, on offense. And it's like, oh, okay, this is what we're looking for. And then, and for various reasons, he's dealt with injuries. He tried to fight someone who was
Oh my
like
gosh.
7 feet tall.
Don't.
Yeah. And so when you say I want to see him get more physical, I'm like, no,
not
like,
that way.
Don't
not
hurt yourself. Let Lazan do all the fighting for you.
That's right.
But I think that, yes, I think that for me, whether it's, last year he was able to stay healthy for the most part, which was good to see. The problem, though, was that there was that Andrew Brunette system that everyone was getting used to. So you can't really hold that against any one guy in particular. And he did have, you mentioned the trade deadline. He had a lot of that hanging over his head. And I'm sure he would never admit it, but I'm here to say they know what's going on. And you said he was a player that maybe he'll be here, maybe he won't. I would argue that most people, myself included, assumed he wouldn't be here. And even after the trade deadline and he didn't go anywhere, we were like, okay, well, he'll still be gone after this season. Like, we just, not because he was bad or a dead weight on the roster. It was more just like it felt like because of the positional depth they had that he was going to be more expendable and that there were going to be other teams that, could use a defenseman like him. So
there also was the message from the team too, I think, fed into that, because after that Vancouver series, you heard from Barry Trotz, we need to get bigger on defense. We need to get bigger. We need to look for some size. That was a message that we heard. And when you hear that message, you do tend to think, I don't know that Carrier is going to be the guy that sticks around, because he isn't somebody that you think of as playing big.
But then you go and get a guy like Andrew Gibson. And then it's like, okay, I see the plan now. It's like, maybe we're not getting big right now.
But we're going to get big.
We're getting there. Yeah. So I think that a lot of people, and we're guilty of this too. When you hear get bigger on defense, we think like, okay, Nikita Zadorov, let's go. And it's like, no, not necessarily. I mean, you got to look a few years down the line, and even in the present. I mean, Brady Shea fits the bill. He's what, 6'4"? Like he's a big guy on defense, and so they kind of addressed it at multiple levels. So I'm not mad about it, but I think he plays bigger, sometimes too big. I'm like, please stop blocking shots. You are made of glass. Please.
Third on the team last season in block shots. He was third on the team. He throws himself in front of that puck.
He does. He is fearless. Like he truly is fearless in the way he plays. So for me, it's a little bit more about establishing that consistency on offense now that he's got a year of the Brunette system under his belt, and he's got another, he doesn't have all of that extra stuff hanging over his head with contracts and trades and all of that. And he can just kind of relax
and do his thing. Yeah, absolutely. Do his thing. I'm really excited to see what you talked about with Alexandre Carrier. You've got that season of the Brunette system under your belt. And I think that goes across the board when you're looking at the guys who are returning from last season. Is what is the familiarity going to do for you across the board? And in particular with Alexandre Carrier, like you mentioned early on, we see there's something there offensively. Maybe this is the season where the familiarity and the comfortability, and if he still is with Jeremy Lauzon, which that's one of those things where I'm like, breaking up that pairing feels a little bit like breaking up the top line. Like, you don't really want to do that, do you? So I don't think it's going to be
I don't know that it's going to be like what they're looking to do. But again, training camp, we'll see all kinds of pairings. I mean, remember at the beginning of camp, the rookies will all be there too. So we'll probably be seeing all kinds of
things.
combinations. So
Yeah.
it should be fun.
It's going to be great. Coming up, we are going to touch on our thoughts about Juuso Parssinen. He was here last season, then he was gone. Now he has a new contract. What do we need to see from him in training camp? Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You have heard us talk a lot about FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little bit different to talk about. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. To check out all of the details, visit fanduel.com. Download America's #1 sportsbook. All right, Emma, we've got to talk about Juuso Parssinen. Last season, just played 44 games here with Nashville, went down to Milwaukee. Very interestingly, he was the player called up in the postseason to play in that game 5 to fill in where there was an injury to Cole Smith. Interesting, though, because he has a different contract this year, and it is a one-way deal. He took a little bit less for a one-way deal. And for me, when it comes to Juuso Parssinen, I think I just want to see consistency. And this is what I will say, and I don't mean this as a criticism. This is just an early observation in the Andrew Brunette tenure. I think Andrew Brunette has trust issues. I really do. I think he has trust issues.
Is he an emotional porcupine or skunk?
Okay, we're gonna have to. I think maybe skunk, because I think it's more of a floating odor than like dart to the heart. Like I don't think he's going for the kill necessarily. But I do think that maybe Bruno has some trust issues. I think Andrew Brunette had some trust issues with Cody Glass. I think Andrew Brunette had trust issues with Phil Tomasino. Think Andrew Brunette had trust issues last season with Juuso Parssinen. And I think consistency is something that Juuso Parssinen needs to bring into training camp to woo Andrew Brunette back. I think he has the skill set. I think we've seen that Juuso Parssinen can be a quality NHL player. I think it's the consistency that we want to see from him, especially just right out of the gate in training camp.
Yeah. And, he, even going back to before he was drafted, and honestly, this is part of why he fell so low in the draft and the Preds were able to get him in the 7th round, was the fact that he's dealt with a lot of injuries. And we saw that again. I mean, we saw that in his rookie season with Nashville. He missed a good chunk of that season, came back at the end. But then last season, we saw it not during the season, but we saw it during training camp. So he missed the majority of training camp. I think he was there, he skated maybe the first day. And then after that, he was out with a lower body injury. And I think that is something that we can't overlook, because I really think that set him back, or it didn't set him back necessarily, but it made it so that when he did come back, he was trying to catch a moving train the whole time when it came to this Brunette system. And so as a result, he struggled a little bit. And so I think that the lack of consistency, I'm sure that he would not want to blame it on his injury. And I wouldn't either, but I would say it had more to do with the timing of his injury. And that, it kind of set him back on, in terms of the rest of the team and getting caught up. So yes, consistency. But I think that goes along with staying healthy. At the same time, I just think this is something that I feel like no one has talked about enough, which is the fact that he only spent half a season in the NHL last year before getting sent down to Milwaukee. Obviously, like you mentioned, came back for one playoff game. but he only spent half a season in the NHL going into his RFA contract year, and he still got a one-way deal. So while Barry Trotz, or excuse me, Andrew Brunette may not trust him, Barry Trotz seems to. And so I think that, again, one-way deal doesn't guarantee that he will be in the NHL, but it makes it far more likely, because you don't want to pay a guy $700,000 to play in the AHL when you're paying the rest of the AHL guys like $100K. So
right. Yeah.
I just think that he has so much upside and so much potential, and we've seen it. And so now I think like this is really going to be kind of his prove it year.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that we've talked about there aren't a lot of spots for these young players to come up in and find their way in. But I do think that Juuso Parssinen is one of those who has the right combination of skill set and size and a little bit of experience, that he is somebody where there are a couple of really good options for him on this NHL roster. So I think that this is somebody to definitely keep an eye on, really want to see him have a strong training camp as well. So going to be watching Juuso Parssinen. The last one I want to talk about is a Nashville Predator who has the best shooting percentage on the team last season. And yet I want to scream at him, shoot the puck more. And this is a case of statistics tell you the truth, except for when they're lying, because the player who had the best shooting percentage last season, Spencer Stastny, y'all. Spencer
also,
Stastny.
Asterisk, it was a smaller sample size, which
That's right.
helps his numbers there.
11 shots in 20
Yes.
games. And so this is where statistics tell you the truth, except when they're lying.
Yes.
And
yeah,
for
offensive powerhouse, Spencer Stastny.
Spencer Stastny. Eat my dust, Roman Yossi, Spencer Stastny.
Do my taxes, Spencer
Stastny. Yes, yes. Hold an armadillo. Oh, we need to spend some time on what Spencer Stastny's zoo animal is, because it really, that's one I think that's going to need some time. We're going to circle back.
Most cerebral zoo animal,
right?
Maybe
like what's the smartest zoo animal?
Maybe like an ape.
Yeah, yeah.
Or something that looks wise, like an owl or something like
He's
that.
such an owl. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, we're going to spend some time chewing on that one.
Yeah.
We'll take suggestions in the comments as well on Spencer Stastny's zoo animal. But we are locked on Spencer Stastny here. We are big fans. I really feel like this is going to be a season where there is an opportunity for Spencer Stastny to show he is the NHL defenseman that the Nashville Predators have been developing and waiting for, and that his time has come. But I don't want to see him hesitate to shoot the puck. And that's something that I think we saw a little bit in his 20 games. I think he was still getting his feet wet. I think he was still looking for where is the next better play. I want to see Spencer Stastny kind of lose the thought process and be able to play at the NHL level, kind of on feel, on gut. Not that they aren't thinking, but don't be thinking about the game as it unfolds. Play the game as it unfolds. And for me, part of that is going to be shooting the puck. So I want to see Spencer Stastny shoot the puck. Shoot the puck.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, the biggest thing for me, like before we even put the cart before the horse, I think, is Spencer Stastny going to make the NHL roster out of camp? I think we have for so long, it's just kind of been this foregone conclusion. Now, he has that two-way for the first year of his contract. It's the two-way deal. And so it's like, well, maybe not. And so again, there are other players I think that he's going to be in competition with for an NHL roster spot. I mean, you still have Mark Del Gaizo, you have Adam Wilsby, you have, hey, who knows? Andrew Gibson told us he could come in and just blow our socks off. So you never know. I think I would like to kind of see just the fight from him and like just kind of that competitive edge, because it's not, that roster spot is not guaranteed to him.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be the defense, the depth defense is going to be a project for Andrew Brunette to sort out. There is a lot of options there. And I agree with you. The fire to compete and get that roster spot, there's going to be a couple of players that are going to work really hard. We saw that from Mark Del Gaizo last training camp. I mean, he was not going to give that spot away.
He was the last man standing. He was
Dang
the
right.
last one standing before the final roster cuts, before he got sent down to Milwaukee. And that was the farthest he had made it at that point in his career. And then obviously we know he made his debut later that season. But I made him cry. But I think that it was, yeah.
Love Del Gaizo.
Yes, but I think that don't treat Spencer Stastny being on the NHL roster as a foregone conclusion. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm just saying like that spot is very much up for grabs.
Mm-hmm. Let's do rapid fire answer on these last two players. Cole Smith, what do you want to see from him in training camp? What improvement do you want to see?
I'd like to see him maybe, I mean, we say this every year, but a little improved accuracy in his shooting. But yeah. I mean, he took leaps and bounds forward last year. So I really don't have much to complain about there.
Yep. I'm with you. Mine was just sort of that finish because Cole Smith was a little bit the kind of the scapegoat for a lot of things. And I love that last season proved that was on all y'all. That didn't have anything to do with Cole Smith. So I agree with you. Would love to see him finish a couple more chances, but really loved his game. What about Phil Tomasino?
Sign a contract.
Girl. Say it. Say it. Yeah, I would really love to see him show up.
Yeah. I just like to see him.
Is he showing up? Like,
yeah.
Yeah. So we're just looking to see the whites of Phil Tomasino's eyes, y'all, and see if he's smiling.
Yep.
Those are our expectations for some of the depth players. Again, training camp kicking off today. We aren't going to be able to see the players today. Tomorrow, they are taking the ice at Ford Ice Center Bellevue, and it's getting real. We've got preseason hockey coming up this weekend as well. So make sure you stay tuned in here to Locked On Predators. Of course, follow us on social media, LO_Predators. And you can follow us on YouTube and your favorite podcasting platform. Emma, let everyone know where they can find you and your work.
You can find me on social media at Emma_Lingen, and you can find my work at The Hockey News.
And you can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work at Penalty Box Radio as well. That's going to do it for today's episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are going to be back tomorrow with more training camp talk. We're going to see you then.